hadn't eaten all day. I started my period. I didn't even have time to go to the toilet. And I felt like, what is going on? This is not right. Like, this isn't okay. I was so embarrassed and absolutely mortified. And then when I discovered menstrual cups and I knew that you can wear them for up to 12 hours, I thought, oh my God, that's going to give me so much more flexibility in working. I'll give you this. Can I give you the stats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone in their lifetime is expected to use between 11,000 and 15,000 pads and tampons. They contain 90% plastic. 87% of that ends up in landfill, on our oceans, on our shores, and it takes between 500 to 1,000 years for them to break down. So,
wow. Given that in 10 years, you'd be buying maybe 5 of these menstrual cups versus 12,000 other products. Right, you live just around the corner, aren't you?
yeah.
That might mean that you might be a more often guest over here.
Yeah, I'd love that. Anytime you need a puppy sitter.
Puppy sitter, yes.
Like
oh
dog
yeah,
care.
yeah,
You're
definitely.
out for a while.
Oh yes, we're always looking
watch the
for people, because all of our friends got sick.
Oh, really?
Was
You felt too bad to ask.
like,
You're asking too frequently.
yesterday I was in London, and
Yeah.
Nikki was coming back from Copenhagen, and there was like this overlap of, I think, 7 hours.
Mm-hmm.
The dogs would have been at home, and I felt
Right.
terribly bad to have the dogs at home for 7 hours. So I asked a friend of mine that I always ask, and I'm like, I really apologize.
Yeah, I hate having to ask anything from anyone. I don't know why I feel so uncomfortable with it, but I normally just put it on my stories on Instagram saying, is anyone free? So, like, would anyone like to borrow my doggy for the day? So then people volunteer.
Are you
like,
not concerned about that?
I hate it. Oh, I just feel so uncomfortable.
What if they steal your dog?
Oh no, like they're my friends.
Oh, your friends. Okay,
Yeah,
I thought that you were
so
just sending
my friends, my Facebook, my Instagram, so my followers, and I'm like, I need a puppy sitter.
Okay, I thought you were asking randomers.
No, oh my God, no, I would never. He wouldn't move. He's got such bad separation anxiety, but like we mutually have that. I don't like it when he's too far away from me. He doesn't like it when I'm too far away from him.
Yeah.
So he needs to know them first to be able to.
It's strange. I have separation anxiety of my dogs as well.
Yeah.
I can't be away from them for too long.
It's completely mutual.
That's why, and I said I'm gonna go on a road show with this podcast. I'm like, why am I gonna be able to leave my puppies at home for too long?
Bring them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, airlines.
All right.
Right. So, Emma, thank you for coming over on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We met. How did we meet? You saw a post or something.
Following Christina's journey, Southeast Angels, pitching competition in London. I applied, didn't make the cut to pitch, and saw that Christina was a guest on your podcast. So I was like, let me check this guy out. Then saw that you were one of the panelists and guest judges on the pitching competition. And I thought, oh, okay, I'd love to meet you. I'm going to drop you a message to say I'm going, but I'm not pitching. And then we got talking on LinkedIn. I shared that I wanted to produce a podcast.
And you came over for an hour and we just geeked about the podcast setups and all of that. So, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Em. It's been quite difficult for me to make an introduction because for the last 6 years, I've had a dental business consultancy.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting more comfortable with introducing myself as the founder of a social enterprise. So it's a brand called Intheflow. And we are on a mission to try and tackle period poverty, raise awareness around the environmental impact of traditional period products, and just encourage people to normalize the conversation around periods because the language that we use is really important. And we're trying to get away from any stigma and shame that's felt around menstruation. And to do that, we need to include everyone on the conversation.
And how do you do that?
Can I just give you one example as me?
Yeah.
Only girl, 3 brothers.
Okay.
My mum used to put my tampons and pads. We didn't used to call them pads. We used to call them sanitary towels. I'll come back to that in a minute. wrap it up in an Asda bag and be like, go and put those in your bedroom so the boys don't see. So the boys were always protected from it because I think my mum didn't want them to feel embarrassed about something that didn't concern them, maybe.
Yeah.
But then it's made my brothers feel like it's not their place, or it's encouraged them to feel uncomfortable about talking about periods and stuff.
It's been like that for like forever, because I'm coming from Eastern Europe, but the same thing, right? So it's like, no, women and my sister wouldn't talk, because I have a sister, wouldn't talk about it. My mom, no one is this stigma, this, I don't know, this shameful thing. You don't want to talk about your periods.
This is why it's a problem, because I think a lot of people then try to protect guys from feeling embarrassed about it. So we try to hide it, which makes it feel shameful and embarrassing for us to be on our periods. So it all feeds into that stigma and shame. So if we normalise the conversation, then hopefully that's one way that we could sort of get over that. But the language, like I said, the language we use is really important. So when I was growing up, it was sanitary towels, but now it's pads, or a lot of people are replacing certain words, because like sanitary towels and feminine hygiene products have the connotations that it's unhygienic, which also feeds into
very true
shame and embarrassment of when people are on their periods.
Interesting. I never actually thought about it. I mean, I realized that women hygiene is kind of, in a sense, trying to not soften but hide the main reason why those products exist. I never actually thought about it like that. And you're right, because you say censor it, but also when you say women hygiene, you're right. You're talking about hygiene, like there's something dirty about women and their natural state, in a sense.
2 big points. Feminine hygiene products suggests that it's unhygienic, periods are unhygienic. The second is how inclusive the language is. So feminine hygiene, women's health, there are lots of other genders that don't identify as a woman that menstruate, and we can't assume that every woman menstruates or has their period. They might not. Mm-hmm. So the messaging that we're trying to get across now and we're trying to encourage is that not every woman menstruates, and not everyone that identifies as a woman menstruates as well. So that language then becomes more inclusive to non-binary, trans men that still might menstruate. And it's coming away from like the gender dysphoria of having a female women's only product.
Yeah.
So there's like 2 really big things in terms of the language that we're using that we're trying to be super aware of, which of course has its own challenges in terms of marketing your product, because it still fits into the female personal care ranges. Right. So when we're registering for our online platforms, like that's where we're placed. But when it comes to SEO, if we're using gender inclusive language and we're not having those search terms, then we've got to try and figure out a way to still be able to track the traffic and be found and discovered by the people that need the product.
Yeah, that's a very interesting challenge, right? Yeah. Because you're tackling a very difficult topic to change.
Yeah. And
along the way, in order to be able to be discovered, how do you get discovered if the keyword? So it almost sounds like it's less about being discovered by people with intent, but actually you bring in awareness as being your main tool to produce change, right? Because at the end of the day, you're right. We've been so trained with our vocabulary when it comes to solutions and challenges that we have in our day-to-day lives, that everyone will go online and search for women's.
I didn't think that I was going to have a physical product to sell ever. this has very much become a passion project of mine because I tried a menstrual cup around 7 years ago and it completely revolutionized my period. I felt far more confident. I had more self-esteem. I was less worried or anxious about leaking, less worried about staying at my partner's house and leaking during the night. I felt more freedom to be able to wear the clothes that I wanted to wear, partake in all the like activities, swimming, gym, all the things that I would probably put off if I was wearing a tampon or pad.
So are cups the gold standard when it comes to period treatment?
There's lots of different options, but the most accessible are pads and tampons. So when I first discovered a menstrual cup, I heard about them in the background, but I'd never come across one to buy it off the shelves.
Why is that? Why are they
Good question.
Accessible?
Here's my theory. So I'll give you this. Can I give you the stats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone in their lifetime is expected to use between 11,000 and 15,000 pads and tampons, but they're single-use items. They contain 90% plastic. And a lot of places don't have we don't have the infrastructure to dispose of that waste responsibly.
Wait, sorry, they contain 90% plastic.
90% plastic.
And you're using that product.
Okay, yes. But not a lot of people realise because these are the most accessible products on the shelves that people need. So they go to the supermarkets, they pick their range of tampons or pads that are on display. And it's a repeat purchase every month. They buy more. So my theory is that menstrual cups aren't on the shelves for that reason, because 11 to 15,000 single-use tampons and pads throughout their lifetime, 90% plastic, 87% of that ends up in landfill, on our oceans, on our shores, and it takes between 500 to 1,000 years for them to break down. So Every pad or tampon that's ever existed still exists now somewhere on our planet.
And what are menstrual cups made of? What's the composition?
The best ones, the premium products, are made of a medical grade silicone, so super safe to use.
Right, okay.
Some are made of like latex and rubber. So I guess if anyone's buying them online, that's one thing that they'd really need to look out for, because latex, as we know, is like a big allergen.
Yeah, I know so many people that are allergic to rubber.
Yeah. So the medical grade silicone are the best options.
And I suppose they're the hardest to find as well.
No.
And expensive?
Okay, good question. When we spoke last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm at a very different place where I was then. A lot of my research over the year has been price pointing our product in a way that reflects the premium quality and is in par with our competitors, because it's been really difficult, because I really want to build this as a brand. It's not a luxury product. It's something that people need. So I don't want it to be promoted as like a luxury product, because it's not. But then if a menstrual cup is like designed to last several years, so the manufacturer's guarantee is like 10 years.
Oh, is it? How many uses would that be? Properly. Sorry to interrupt.
12 times a year over 10 years, 1,200 uses.
That's like,
they're reusable.
Was it 10% of, you said that how many of the pads
would be used within that time? I think I can't do the math that quickly, because a lot of people often use a combination of pads and tampons. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to give like a direct figure on what it is, but it's roughly 24 pads or tampons per period each month.
Wow. So, because you mentioned at the beginning something like 11,000 or 12,000 over
the period of their menstrual cycle, menstrual lifetime.
So menstrual lifetime,
some people start their periods at 11, younger, some much later on, some reach their menopause early on, later on. So that's like the range of, on average, that's why it's, it's quite a jump from 11,000 to 15,000.
So basically, if I make the math here, given that in 10 years you'd have Yeah, you'd be buying maybe 5 of these menstrual cups in your menstrual lifetime.
Yeah.
Unless you lose them and they wear out and so on. But let's say 10 maximum versus 12,000 other products.
Massive financial impact and benefit to make the swap to menstrual cup. Environmentally, massive. Like, they're the solution. Like, they are the future for periods. I've sort of felt a little bit uncomfortable with where I sit with our pricing point, because we have a buy one, give one model. So that justified the price of our product, us being able to make a donation. But then we're saying to people, a lot of our messaging is you just buy one and it lasts you for however long, so it's a financial saving. But if we know that a lot of people are struggling to afford between £7 and £12 each month to buy pads and tampons, having a product at £20 plus up front to share the benefit of that financial saving, that person has to be privileged enough to be able to afford £20 up front to be able to benefit from that.
Yeah.
So if our whole messaging and our whole purpose is to try and tackle period poverty, having a £20 product when someone's struggling to find £7 to £12 doesn't actually align with what we're trying to do here. So we've decided to just half it. So we've priced our product at £10 now, and we still have our buy one, give one pledge. And we're hoping that we can have like a pay-as-you-feel option. So those that are able to afford it can make a donation of a menstrual cup, and we'll work out the logistics of where that gets shared to. But it'll be like homeless shelters, refugee centres, low-income communities, food banks, places like that, and partnering with different charities. But it then means that we're achieving our mission of making menstrual cups affordable and accessible and putting people and planet over profit.
I'm curious, how did you manage to do that? How did you manage to slice the price in half?
Going back to why I started this in the first place, it was a passion project. And then as I started developing the brands, and gained a lot of like interest and encouragement to like push it forward, and then doing my competitor analysis, I guess I was just trying to do what other people are doing with the pricing point.
As in be comparable with competitors.
Yeah, because I felt like it's a new product, it's a new brand. And I didn't want to, I was worried that I'd be undercutting people if I didn't price it at that sort of pricing point, really. And because it's the same sort of standard and quality product.
Yeah.
So that's what I went with. That's what felt right to do at the time. But I've gone from talking about teeth to talking about periods on nights out.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Let's dive into that, because I find it extremely interesting when people pivot into completely different industries.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about your career. Where did it all start?
Dentistry wise, I started off as a dental receptionist, and I got that job because my brother's girlfriend didn't show up to work one day, and I called the practice and I was like, "Are you looking for a receptionist?" Practice manager Charmaine was like, "Yeah, can you start tomorrow?" So that's how I landed that job.
Wait, so your brother's girlfriend got fired because she didn't show up?
Yeah.
And then you were like,
yeah.
"Oh, I feel so bad for you. Hello, do you have a number?"
I knew she wasn't going to go back to work. Like,
right, okay.
She was, she was dating my brother at the time. She was staying at our house a lot. She wouldn't get up for work.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, I need a job.
I need
like,
money.
Are you going to go back there? She was like, nah. And I thought, okay, do you mind if I call them? So I called them. And I'm really happy I did. And it was just a job for now. I didn't want to work in a dental practice. I just needed a job. And then they were like, "Oh, like you need to go on to become a dental hygienist or therapist. But at the time you need to be a dental nurse." So I went to King's, trained as a dental nurse, left there, worked at a multidisciplinary dental practice, which was incredible. I worked with Andrew and Susan Tanner Andrew Darwood is like the most innovative, inspiring engineer, dentist, artist, creative mind. And I think that was what welcomed me into the world of innovation and imagination. So although I was working there as a dental nurse, we treated a lot of patients. Like we had max fax patients come in, oncology patients that have lost their noses. And we used 3D printing technology to rebuild the faces going by old pictures. And then we'd 3D print that, make an impression, cast that into silicone, which was then fixed with magnets from implants. So much more than dentistry. Yeah, my mind was blown.
When you think of dentistry, you think of mouth health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the nose is part of the
it's
dentistry.
It's like max vax, so anything from the neck upwards, really.
It belongs to dentistry.
Dental surgeon. Well, like max vax specialist more so.
What did you call it?
Max vax is shortened to maxillofacial.
Oh, it's the maxillary and I see. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I'd never know that.
It was great.
But I suppose up until here, because there's eye surgeons and doctors that are separate.
Yeah. But it was great for me because I didn't know that dentistry would take me on that path. And it was always wonderful being like a part of the patient's journey and restoring their smiles and restoring their confidence and working in that healthcare setting from hospital. Before that, I was working for the police. I volunteered for the police. And there's always been that community element. I loved working in the police because I was in the local community.
Wait, before that you worked in the police?
I volunteered for the police for 7 years.
How old were you?
I was a peanut. I was like 18 or 19. Yeah.
18 and 19, and can you just volunteer like that?
Well, I thought I wanted to become a police officer or an arts teacher. And while I was doing my arts, I loved branding. I loved graphic design. Like, I loved that sort of stuff, storytelling. But then I need to do like a foundation degree before I went to art. And I'm one of 4. My family didn't have much money. I thought it was £1,000 at the time. And I was like, I can't let my family pay £1,000 for me to do this art degree, not knowing what it might lead to. So I thought, okay, let me apply for the police. But I didn't feel like I had enough life experience to apply for the police. So I volunteered for 7 years and did it for free.
7 years?
7 years.
And what was your schedule like there?
Oh, okay. So I was working at Starbucks at the time. So I'd do like 7 till 3 at Starbucks midweek. And then I'd work 8 o'clock on a Friday night until sometimes 8 o'clock Saturday morning on the beat in Tooting, arresting like big guys. Yeah,
what?
I know.
So you've done that up until your mid-20s then?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do it as much when I was completing my dental nurse training because I was working full time and also studying, attending like lectures to complete my dental nurse training. And then I sort of made a decision. Okay, I applied for the police 3 times at that point and they lost my application or they didn't submit it in time. And then it was the 2012 Olympics and they said, we're putting a hold on recruitment and we're recruiting volunteers. I thought, well, I've been volunteering for however long anyway. So I was like, I've got to stop putting all my eggs in this one little basket. So then I put my eggs into a dental hygiene and therapy basket. Yeah. And I kept applying for that. But again, they just kept moving the goalpost. But that was fine. I still was able to progress in my career in more ways than I imagined in dentistry. And I think that's probably been my challenge in that 2 years in, I started to be recognised for delivering like excellent recruitment services. I was invited as guest speakers. I was winning awards. I was invited to as like an author in articles, as a thought leader. And then pandemic, recruitment crisis. I got a recruitment company in a recruitment crisis. There's still the demand there, but no applicants.
So how did you get from the assistant role to in the recruitment side? Because it feels like a different type of
Once
work.
Qualifying, I was working at this multidisciplinary practice in London, Wimpole Street Medical District, that like Harley Street way. Then I moved to Brighton in 2016 and I managed a dental practice there for a year.
Right.
And that was when I had a bad experience with a recruitment agency. I felt like they missold an opportunity to me, number one. But then I was working with 3 different agencies to help build a team in the practice. I felt like it was really salesy and that they were just sending me CV with really not much thought or consideration to what it was that we were looking for, personal and professional attributes. And then I looked one day and I just had like a pile of CVs, and I felt really gross because I just saw them as a pile of CVs rather than people behind that looking to like grow in their careers. And then that was like inspiration for me to say, okay, this is like a broken system. I want to start my own recruitment agency, but I want to build it as like a community, and I want to support dental professionals with their career goals and helping them prepare for interviews and find practices that are going to help them grow.
Was there anything like that out there?
Not really at the time, no.
Because it does I don't know, I'm not from this industry, but it doesn't seem like something that would be available to. Yeah. I have a couple of friends that are dentists, and they're either been with the same practice for a long time, or they have to go their way to get a new role.
Can you imagine? It's really disruptive when a dental professional leaves a team because patients build
true.
Their confidence with certain clinicians or team members. So quite disruptive when they move on. But yeah, that was how I started my dental business. But then I learned very quickly that people don't like recruitment agencies. So people didn't like.
Yeah, true.
The clinicians, the practice owners would call me privately and say, Emma, we're looking for receptionists or dentists, but then they're clinical. So from 8:30 to 5:30. So then I can't speak to them during the day. So if I called the same practice to say, I need to speak with this person, they were like, sorry, we're not dealing with agencies. Like, hang up on me.
Oof.
So there was lots of like, it just felt like a waste of time to keep calling people and not being able to sort of reach the people that we needed to talk to. So during the pandemic anyway, it worked well and I enjoyed it. It came with a lot of challenges, but there came a point, your question was like, how did you go from this to that? Mm-hmm. There came a point where I didn't feel satisfied. I felt like I gave so much away. I made so many compromises to make it work. And it wasn't really working the way that I wanted it to. And a lot of the things that were leading me to feel unfulfilled were a lot of things that I didn't have any control over. I'm working with people. I can't, there's nothing I can do, right? It's quite, I don't know what I'm going to say. If someone gets another job offer, or they decide to leave, relocate, that's all their life experience and life choices.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that's out of your control.
There's no accountability or commitment from practices, because if I'm helping them recruit, they're also working with 3 other agencies, 3 or 4. Yeah. So if I put someone forward, they might not look at it for 2 weeks and it's too late. So I might be working for 3 months. It's like one of the rare industries that you work for free until you make a placement. It's not a nice way to work at all.
But it does sound like what it sounds to me is a lot of the challenges that you're facing with that were very similar challenges to any other recruitment agency. That's the same kind of thing, reliability in candidates or unforeseen things, and then the lack of loyalty of the companies where you're placing candidates and so on.
What we found is a lot of dental practices can't afford to pay competitive rates. So a team member might say, I want a pay rise, and they say, we can't afford to give you a pay rise. So at that point, that team member will come to us and say, I'm looking for a new job because I know my worth and I know that I can get more elsewhere. We'll find them a job, interviews, job offer, perfect. They hand their notice in out of sheer desperation. The practice is like, we'll match your offer. And it's only at that point. But again, we've sort of preempted that and said, if they were to match it, would you say? They say no. So again, we've done all that work and we don't really get much out of it.
It is quite, it's quite challenging to work with in this kind of like both in the sense B2C and B2B, right? Because you're like working with people that need jobs, and then you're working with practices as well that are companies that it's kind of like a business and and they have so different at times, so different ways of looking at things and values and so on. I understand that completely. So how did you come across this
Intheflow?
Yeah.
What was the catalyst? There's been a lot of little bits of inspiration. So
signals,
not like blatant, not subliminal. Like they've been there and they've had some sort of impact or influence. But because I've been so focused on trying to make my business work, because it was me and my like chosen family member Luke that was really helping me with it as well and working with me at the time. I was accountable, I was responsible to make it work. So if my clients are working 8:30 to 5:30 and I'm working 8:30 to 5:30, but they're only available at 11 o'clock at night or Sunday to talk to me, I've got to be available 24/7 really to make it work. So that massively compromised relationships, friendships, being able to go to birthday celebrations and all the lovely things that I would have loved to have gone to. Kind of made lots of sacrifices to try and make it work. I still wasn't really getting the results. Going back to little bits of little events that happened. When I was a dental nurse, I wore an all-white uniform and I was nursing for a patient and I started my period and I sent a message out to my team saying, can someone relieve me? And no one could. So I had to sit there knowing that I'd soiled my uniform and that I had to go downstairs, past lots of people, change my uniform. I was already working into my lunch break because it was an emergency patient. So I hadn't eaten all day. I started my period. I didn't even have time to go to the toilet. And I felt like, what is going on? This is not right. Like, this isn't okay. I was so embarrassed and absolutely mortified. If that was to happen now, I think I'd be like, this is a problem. We need to, like, this should never have happened. But at the time, I was just like completely mortified. And then when I discovered menstrual cups and I knew that you can wear them for up to 12 hours, I thought, oh my God, that's going to give me so much more flexibility and working. Leak-free with correct use meant that I didn't have to worry about leaking and wearing a white uniform. And that's what I meant when I said that my self-esteem was far better wearing a menstrual cup than it was relying on other period products. So that was like a big inspiration for me. Like, it was one thing that I wish that I invented myself. And I wanted to knock on everyone's door and be like, you need to be aware of a menstrual cup and how revolutionary they are in a period world. That was one. Then when I started looking into it and I started looking into period poverty and I started looking into like cultural beliefs around periods, because some see it as like a coming of age celebration, some see it as unhygienic, some sort of shame people for having their periods. There's lots of different cultural relationships around it. And then I was looking at the environmental impact. So it just opens my world of something far bigger than I've ever expected it to be. So that's what like this year of researching has been. Then I was doing hand and feet casting, like baby hands and feet, taking impressions and casting it into stone.
Okay, like the present type of... You give someone a present. I mean, you give your family a present of your baby's hands and
my
feet.
Cousins,
or was
friends,
it for something else?
My cousins and friends were having babies at the time, so they asked me to do baby casts for them. So I was doing that sort of stuff. And on Instagram, I discovered a local Brighton body casting artist called Lydia Reeves. And she does like torso, body casting. She also does vulva casts. But with that collection, she released a book called My Vulva and I, which shared really beautifully presented like photos of all the casts that she'd done to share how diverse our bodies are, all shapes, all sizes, all very, very different, to empower people to feel more comfortable in their bodies and with their vulva and the relationship that they have with them. So that was something I was like, wow, this is not, I wish I had this when I was 12, 13, growing into my body. That would have been so powerful. So that was like one book back then. Then what else was there? I think it was just like all the little bits of information that I'd researched.
But it also sounds like you, so you're doing quite a bit of research. You're finding all of these issues, and that incentivizes you, and actually, I suppose, excites you in a way, because you want to help change that.
Yeah.
Because I feel that as well, when I figure out problems, although it's, for some it might be extremely frustrating, I see it as an opportunity, and it excites you in a sense. It's terrible, the fact that the women menstruation industry, menstruation industry, actually, let's not call them women menstruation. Yeah, exactly.
In having this conversation, you're more aware of the language that you're using.
Well, even that's why I use menstruation industry rather than health industry, because that kind of stuck with me, what you said.
Amazing.
The menstruation industry, just, in a sense, it feels like hiding certain solutions in order to sell more of the things that, because otherwise, why wouldn't menstruation cups be more commonly available and accessible?
Well, you asked me, why are they not that accessible? And I think in the supermarkets, it is because of the repeat purchase, because it brings people back to the stores to buy them every month. And one menstrual cup replaces pads and tampons for 10 years, if that's the lifespan of a menstrual cup on average, if cared for properly. So if someone just goes and buys a menstrual cup, then they're losing a lot of money on those repeat purchases.
Yeah.
But more and more brands and supermarkets and stores now have like a sustainability pledge, that they're trying to work with more sustainable brands and be a little bit more responsible with the brand's products that they're working with. So I really do feel like there's going to be a massive shift in that. But then I do feel like that is also the same reason why they're not as accessible as they could be.
Because are you referring to the fact that it's not yet so, like, these stores and brands that have products are not yet that open to more sustainable? And
I'm not sure that it's not that they're not open to it. I just think that it's a one-time purchase that lasts for 10 years, whereas the products that they're supplying or that they have readily available now are a product that brings people back each month to purchase them.
Right. So it's kind of like this internal battle in some of these supermarket brands and store brands that's like, well, we want to brand ourselves as ethical.
Yeah.
But we also want to sell a lot of stuff.
I think they just need to offer that variety, because menstrual cups aren't for everyone, pads aren't for everyone, tampons aren't for everyone. Another product that's becoming more popular now are period pants or absorbent underwear, which for me feels more age appropriate for young people that are heading into puberty and starting their periods at a young age.
Right.
And that, up to only a couple of weeks ago, has just been listed as like a tax-free product. But up until 2 weeks ago, there was 20%, I think, tax on that product.
So why are the menstruation cups not a fit for everyone, right? I understand the early age where, these absorbing pants and so on might be a better choice, but why are the cups not? Because it sounds like would be a golden standard in a sense. Why are they not a fit for everyone?
I think there's been a massive shift on people being more aware of their spending and purchases and their impact. And I think people are looking for more eco-friendly alternatives because they have that awareness now of like, you know, their impact on waste, the environment.
Yeah.
And I think that is that offers some influence on people's buying habits. Like a lot of like Gen Zs want to buy into purpose-driven businesses. So the environmental element is one big selling point for people that are looking for plastic-free periods. It's quite a big change for someone who doesn't use tampons to go from a pad to a menstrual cup. But the difference in using a tampon to a menstrual cup is a much nicer experience, because even with tampons, the string gets wet, so you can still leak. People might not go swimming with it in case they leak. So because a menstrual cup is a medical grade silicone, it's not absorbent. So you don't have to worry about the string getting wet. It's very discreet.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, you won't leak with proper use. And it's not absorbing anything. It's collecting rather than absorbing. Sometimes tampons can be really uncomfortable and dry to remove, quite painful at times. A menstrual cup, you wouldn't have that experience.
So I mean, a lot of these sound like the reason why to use them, and in a sense sounds like the perfect product, but why would it not be for some people?
Cultural beliefs, religious beliefs.
Right.
So this is where we need to be like super responsible and accessible for all people that we're trying to support under the period poverty heading, right? Because if I'm working with homeless shelters or refuge centres, and it's more of like if like the people within these centres, as an example, if they're Muslim women, they might not use our menstrual cup. They might opt for pads.
Right, okay.
For that reason. But then I don't want to not be able to offer them a solution that's going to help them. But in my mind, giving them one pack of pads isn't the solution either. So as our brand grows and our catalogue grows, I do want to have other sustainable alternatives to fit each and every person. So I want to have absorbent underwear. I want to have reusable pads that people can wash at home. So there's still lots of different options, and people can choose an option that feels comfortable for them.
How are you producing these
I've got
cups?
my supplier for the menstrual cups. I've got my supplier, and I've been testing the absorbent underwear. I don't really want to call them period pants because there might be other reasons why people need them. But that's more trial and error. I need to wash them. I need to see how they feel. I need to test the quality.
Period pants sounds cooler.
Yeah, it does. But then
period pants.
It might be a postnatal.
Yeah, true.
New parent. It might be someone that's pre or postmenopausal. Yeah. That's not bleeding heavily.
If you call them period pants, you're narrowing down the use.
But then people say, this is again one of the challenges in the language that we're using goes against us. Mm-hmm. Because people will be searching for period pants, and we want to call it absorbent underwear. But then it's things and platforms like this, and really sharing our message for people to, I guess, know what to look for. Mm-hmm. And just maybe we just need to push our marketing efforts a little bit harder.
So speaking of that, what is the grand plan? Because you want to change the attitude towards period.
Yeah.
How are you planning to do that? Because that seems like a very big undertaking.
I mean, it is and it isn't. I think I didn't have anyone visiting my schools when I was that age. I think my memory of sex education and period education classes was someone sticking a tampon in a flask to show us how absorbent they were and how they worked. But actually, there's so many more charities now that are going in schools. We'd love to go into schools as well to talk about period poverty, talk about the environmental impact, talk about different options that are available, but also helping people understand their periods. up until recently, in the last 5 years or so, this is why technology is so wonderful, and having our phones and devices is amazing in terms of education and information, because there's period tracker apps that tell you, I've learned more about my period in the last 5 years than I ever did at school, through these apps and through these trackers. So these platforms work really well. There's the Flow app, there's Natural Cycles. They're incredible for people to go to as like a source for information. I guess visiting schools, having these conversations, blog posts, podcasts, articles.
Which again, it is a long-term approach. But as with everything, things take time to produce change.
It's not just me doing it. There are other really fantastic charities. There's the Bloody Good Period. Fantastic. So they also work with lots of different charities. They initially accepted loads of donations to then be able to distribute them. Then they had too many donations, and they logistically became a bit of a nightmare. So now they request like financial donations for them to make sure that they can allocate funding for certain areas or groups to be able to tackle period poverty that way. But again, they're really big on language. There's so many, like it's not just us that are really promoting the language and the inclusion.
What's the scariest thought around this for you when you're thinking about, wanting to be a big contributor to changing the way
going back to what you said, like, I don't feel scared. I don't feel worried about challenges. That's what excites me.
Mm-hmm.
Every challenge that I've faced has led to inspiration, improving something so it works better, like streamlining our services, improving the way we work. So I'm not really scared of anything. Like, that sort of thing excites me. I'm happy to just literally go with the flow and just enjoy the process and just face it if and when we come to it. What would you imagine would be like a challenge for us?
Well, the reason why I was asking was because, and I was asking the challenges and stuff, because when it comes to a quite established industry like this,
mm-hmm.
where you have giant companies that probably control quite a lot of the narrative,
mm-hmm.
I think the biggest challenge could be around that,
mm-hmm.
around, do big distributors of health products that have a range of products would make the pivot into not only better, more sustainable products, but also changing the way this type of product is seen
mm-hmm.
and talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that they control a lot of the trends and the narrative over certain products.
Yeah.
So if they call it women's health
mm-hmm.
all the time, and that's all you see in shelves, in stores, it's quite hard to, from my view, it might not necessarily be that, but it's quite hard to change that unless there's a movement that moves towards that, and there's a trend around, destigmatizing this topic. And then, brands nowadays, large, giant brands, are quite good at keeping up with the trends.
Mm-hmm.
So if something becomes a trend, they'll change as well. But I'm wondering if you see that as a challenge, if you see large distributors sticking to their guns on how they present their products, as well as what products they sell.
I was really, a lot of everything that I've looked into is, how do I get into retail? Where do I sit on the shelf next to these big companies that have been doing this for years and years? But now I've sort of decided that I'm not sure if I want to be in retail. I think what I want to do as a community business, as a social enterprise, is work with local businesses, offer them a sponsor opportunity for them to make a donation of menstrual cups for us to then donate to the local communities that they're working within, for us to reach the homeless shelters, food banks, or charities that they'd like to partner with, to make the donations that way. Because then we're still receiving that like order, we're still getting our products to the people that need them. But for me, that would be more impactful. That's where I can sort of see the business growing. I've been looking at investment opportunities to grow it. In my mind, when I first started developing the idea, I was like, this could be like a worldwide brand. Like that was my dreams for it. But I don't want to get caught up in scaling up a business, scaling up and losing sight of the reason why we started this in the first place. Yeah. I think I'd rather it grow really organically through those like community initiatives. Like that's what success looks like for me.
It does seem like a really great setup. Buy one, give one away.
Yeah. Thank you.
How much do you expect of the let's say in the next year of your time and your products reaching charities and underrepresented type of
right now I'm in
communities?
Two minds if I want to stay registered as a social enterprise on a buy one give one model and complete our own fundraising and working with like corporate companies as part of their like social responsibility community efforts, accepting donations and doing the distribution that way. Or if I want to re-register as a charity and then tap into some of the funding that's available, funding that I'm looking to raise through working with local businesses through donations, wouldn't just pay for the menstrual cups, it will pay for me or a member of my team to go into schools to deliver these workshops.
Yeah.
So
what keeps you from just changing it? Are there any reasons?
I feel like we're so early in right now, in that it's only been the last few months that I've had the physical stock myself with me here. I've still been tweaking the website. I've been doing everything on my own. And I've been doing that whilst I've been running an established business that's been going for 6 years. So going into 2024 with something that I've got I can hold it now. And I feel more in tune with myself and where I want to take it. Like I've had lots of wonderful people give me lots of ideas and I've taken all that on board. But I think like I've surrounded myself with lots of entrepreneurs and like people in business that are like sales. And that's like, it's important. We need to be sustainable. We need to be able to fund the work that we're doing. And then that would help us to reach the people that we want to help. But I just think there's different ways of doing things.
Yeah. I'm trying to picture this because
I'm coming at that as like a fundraising opportunity. So rather than sales on a website or on Amazon or wherever we're selling, if we can work with companies and they make a donation of 500 cups, say, that is like, okay, now we've got something to work with, like a larger scale order.
Yeah. Charity sounds quite fit, but I suppose it comes with its inner workings and challenges as well. Running it simply as a charity. Are you finding challenges when talking to investors, specifically by the fact that you are a product that's not resellable to the same customer very often?
No, because if that was my business model, I would have upselling options. We would sell cleaning products, sterilizers. It might be that we introduce a subscription package where every 3 months we send them things to prepare for their product, right? I think if I was introducing myself as a period brand, this is the markup, this is the problem, this is the solution, this is what we need to do. I think that would be more attractive than me introducing myself as a social enterprise on a buy one, give one model, focusing on community, because investors want something that they can build and scale and grow.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
And for me, it's the purpose, it's people, it's planet. Like, that's my motivation, which probably doesn't make me a great business person, but I'm not introducing myself as a business person. I'm introducing myself as a founder of a social enterprise to try and tackle period poverty.
But there are nowadays a lot of VCs that are strictly focused on sustainability type of businesses. And as long as there's a vision and a sane plan on how to amplify what you're doing, I think there's always going to be investors, angel investors and VCs that are interested in spending. And at the end of the day, if someone goes, but that's not going to give me profitability, you don't want them as a partner.
And this is where the investment versus donations come in. Because I think if someone's, okay, they're like making a donation, then that's going to generate an income. And it means that we can deliver what we need, like, to the people that need it. I think the investment that I need is skills, contacts, experience, like, to build the brand into something that I can't achieve on my own, because I feel like everything else are things that I can plan for, strategize and deliver, but I'm only one. I've got a lovely lady, Lola, helping me, who's been an absolute superstar. But I don't know, I'm excited for what's to come. It's still like very, very new.
So what are some of those skills that you need from, let's say, someone that's willing to invest, maybe invest their money as well as some of their skills or knowledge? What are the things?
Okay. So if I had an investor come forward now, I'd massively push our marketing efforts in terms of ads so we can be seen and discovered. I'd massively promote our PR efforts. Community outreach, like school visits. I want to try and keep that. It's something that we are able to do once we start generating sales. That's always going to be a big part of why we're doing this. One way for me to build something and take people on that journey with me was having someone join me and be like a partner and offer them equity for their services, whether it be marketing services, PR, content, and have them join the Intheflow team, be on the team. And that was their investment, that was their commitment, and they're accountable for managing that part of the business.
One thing that I wanted to ask is, what are you good at? Like, what is your superpower? In general, as a founder, what do you?
I think my persistence, commitment. A lot of people tell me that I'm very personable and that I need to be the face of something, because it's not the brand or the product, but sometimes it's you. Like, people see how animated and how passionate you are about something. They want to work with you for that reason.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I definitely have that. Once I'm on or I'm off, and there's no in between. Once I care about something, I will give like 100,000,000% to see it through and to make sure it works. I'm quite creative with my ideas. I like to think outside of the box, and that really excites me. So as much as it's really important to see what other people are doing, it's also really important to know that, okay, but they've been doing that for 20 years and there's not been much change. And we're living in a completely different time to what we were 20 years ago. I think some people would feel they might have an idea, but they don't have like the confidence or the courage to go for it, because they might have like self-limiting beliefs, or they might feel like they're not the best person to do it. But I think people should just do what they can and just give it a go. I didn't at all feel qualified to share or like really like work on this, but then I felt like, but I'm doing it because I want to do it, because it's important to me. I think a big transition for me, coming from as like a dental professional into a dental business, and then almost like not reinventing myself, but reintroducing myself as a founder of a brand, was really uncomfortable for me, because I was like, I don't know how. It was almost like I was, when I said reinventing myself, it felt like I was reintroducing myself to the world. And I wasn't sure how that would play out, if people within dentistry would think less of me, or it would have a consequence on that business and that brand that I built with that. But I don't see it that way at all now. I just think it's another string to my bow. And I'm having fun doing it. And I know that it's going to make a difference. So that's my motivation with it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that I'm in the same kind of situation now. Been having an identity and a persona in my network, and that has been changing. And it's a daunting thought.
It is, isn't it?
When you're like, oh, I have a base, a network base. They all know me for this. They appreciate this.
Yeah.
And I'm transitioning to something else.
Yeah.
But I think also there are people that can exist in an environment, in an industry, and a topic for the entirety of their career. Which is perfectly fine. I admire those people. I've never been like that. I've always kind of like evolved into a variety of things along the way.
Yeah.
And it's not really, we were talking about the industry and how the word menstruation is not used and health is used and so on, because that's seen as a no. If you think about it, if when we were kids and in our early years, this would have been normalized, you wouldn't care about it.
Yeah.
Right?
It wasn't.
It's like, again, because it's nature, it's part of who we are and what we are and so on. So it's odd that we're ashamed of who we are.
Yeah.
That we were made to be ashamed of who we are.
Yeah.
In this side of our being, which is, some people have menstruation every single month, and that's normal. Not abnormal. But it's the same thing with, and I don't want to compare it too much, but this is the kind of like the standards that we put on ourselves, because if you've been working in the industry for 20 years, then oh wow, that person is so amazing, has been achieving so much in this industry and so on. But a person that loves thriving in an industry and changing and going to do something else and so on is considered a bit abnormal, as in, well, oh really, what happened? Like the amount of time that I had, like, oh really, well, that's odd, right? If I tell to someone that I'm coming from a SaaS B2B world, and I built a business and I sold it, and what do you do now? Oh well, I'm more into content and filmmaking, and
completely different.
It's like, oh really?
Yeah.
Like it's a surprise to people, right?
Passion projects.
Yeah. But people are surprised, right? Because the expectation is you continue down that path that you chose for yourself, and you get super good at it, and you continue, and you ultimately whatever, retire in that industry. So whenever someone hears of someone that's in this technical industry and then moving into creative, it's like, oh wow, that's interesting, right? It's not normal. That's and even even people that have their best intention at heart, right? But have this reaction, it's still, to me, is a bit like a disheartening, because you realize, people just expect you to be the...
Yeah, I think that's what the key word is, expectations. And you asked me what I did like before I started this. And if I go back to when I was studying art and design, I was really into branding. I was really into graphic design. Actually, all the things that I've developed and the highlights of all the best bits for me has been branding, marketing, design, creating something, creating like a brand identity. The tone of voice and the language that we use all falls into it, but then it's coming away from me as a business owner and then becoming the voice of a brand and who we want to be and how we want to be seen and who we want to reach in that element. I've had a massive identity crisis over the last 2 years. I've been on such a ride with it, but I think having that little sit down with myself and being like, what do you want to do? This is what I want to do. That then helped me design a product, a brand, for me to do all those things that I like doing, to make that difference and find my purpose. And in stepping into that, I feel far more comfortable with myself and what I'm working on. I think working in dentistry, I never really planned to work in dentistry. It was a job that I fell into, and then I made the best out of every situation and just took every opportunity that came to me. And although with dentistry, like we started off as a recruitment agency, a bit like yourself, it evolved. I couldn't stay complacent. I was always hungry for different things that I enjoyed doing. So transitioning to a dental business consultancy meant that I could then incorporate the brand and the marketing and the business consultancy side of things. So I sort of tweaked it that way. But then I still wanted to build the community and help people in their careers. And then that's when the academy was launched, and I was training people on like the patient journey and customer service and sales and marketing and that aspect. So it's grown in lots of different areas. And I think that's what excites me. Like when you say like, what is the future, or like, where do you see this heading? I'm just excited to just take it to wherever it wants to go, to really embrace any opportunity that comes our way. The social enterprise versus the charity option, the reason why I'm sitting on it is because there are already such fantastic charities that you're not in competition with each other. Everyone's trying to work towards the same goal. So the partnership opportunities there. There's lots to think about, but it's all very exciting stuff.
What I realized talking to you, and in the past talking to other people and knowing myself as well, if you're able to incorporate the things that you love doing, like design, branding, this, like yourself, it feels less about the ultimate goal and more about that journey. Because that's why I think that's why you're able to say, at the moment I'm just happy to progress it. I don't have this ultimate goal in mind that I'm clinging to. I'm just happy to take it a step further and see progression along the way and so on. And I think that is often incentivized and fueled by us being able to do the things that we love in our job. Because I also know people that started businesses that wanted the sole thing that they wanted to change this industry. And they've gotten to apply none of the things that they love to do as a professional, as a creative, as a thinker, and so on.
It limits them in that way because they're so distracted by the end goal.
And then you're miserable throughout there's people that will be miserable throughout the journey because all of the things that they love is just hobbies here that they never have time for.
They don't have time for it.
And then you just focus on achieving this,
Yeah.
but being miserable in the journey. So then does it feel the same when you reach that point?
Yeah. I think for me also, on this little personal journey of mine, I've realised that the way that I work now is also a coping mechanism for me. So when you said earlier about like having these set goals and expectations, if those expectations aren't met, well, it doesn't make you feel good. And sometimes, you know, you have set ideas, but then it means that you're not fully living in the present. And I think when building my other business, I was on the entrepreneurial accelerator and I was working with businesses, and it was like really encouraged to scale. Okay, what's your exit plan? What are you going to do? Okay, how are you going to be attracted to this person, that person? What's your pitch? And I was like, oh my goodness, like this is my first experience stepping into business. I need to do all these things. So I was working on business development, but like at the same time working in the business, felt overwhelmed. And it meant that I built something and I was able to grow it, and I had the confidence and skills and network to support and nurture that experience. But at the same time, I was trying to race ahead and get to a place where I guess my network thought I should be, or making a comparison to where my network were at, or my competitors. That was their journey. That's not my journey. So it meant that I wasn't really able to fully embrace and like enjoy that experience with that business. Whereas with this business, it's nice to have goals, but I just feel fully present. Like I'm happy with the work that I'm producing now. I'm happy with our purpose. I'm happy with everything that I've got, but I think it's because I don't have expectations. I'm not comparing myself to where I think I should be. I'm just happy with where I am now. And it's the first time ever in my career that, you know, like I can truly and honestly say that I feel that way. And I think to me, that's what success looks like. It's how you feel in yourself, and it's like in what you do.
And that's what should matter to you.
Yeah.
Not what other people think you should be doing or think of you. Because that's why I'm kind of like also stepping more into this content and doing something completely different than what's expected of a, you know, successful exited founder that should be a serial entrepreneur and they should start their next business in the same industry and replicate the success that they had and so on. It's just not
done your time.
And it's really not hard. Caring, not putting too much pressure on yourself with, you know, the societal standards for the type of person that you are in a sense. So
I think it's also been super aware of all the sacrifices you've made and what that's meant, what you've missed out on in terms of what things are really important to us in life, our family, our friends, the moments and the memories that we create with them. If you're overwhelmed and you're working all hours under the sun, and then when you're at these events and you're in this company that should be like a really happy time, you feel bad because you feel like you should be doing something else. You're not truly present with them. Like that's been a massive eye-opener for me. Like I was at these events with family and I just felt like you're not getting the best of me because I feel like I need to be elsewhere. I don't want to feel like that anymore. So that's something that I'm like really actively working on and just like completely giving myself time and a break away. And that's what Intheflow has been, which sounds crazy because working on like a full-time business and then working on this in my spare time or free time. It's easy to make time, isn't it, when you're passionate in doing something?
So what's going to happen with the other business?
It's still going. I feel like I've come to a place with it now where I've designed a model that will operate and run with me in it or can work without me. Because what I found with that business is I built it up and I was having people come forward. Even up to this day, I've still got people saying, "Em, we want to buy it. Like, we want to buy in. We want to partner." A couple of months ago, I had a call with someone that wanted to join forces, but they wanted a 5-year commitment.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I've been doing it on my own or with, you know, my chosen brother for like chosen family like Luke. For so long, it's just been me. And I think, I'm not sure that I do well with that pressure of working in like a corporate environment, or I've just done what feels right for me, and it's been enough for me.
Yeah, and I think you have to put boundaries. So if Intheflow is the thing that you're passionate about, the business and the movement that you want to invest a large portion of your being, but continue to run your other business, is just setting those boundaries and structures in place to allow you to still have that and focus your time here. The last thing you want to is not to do that and then beat yourself up because you don't spend much time in Intheflow because you have all of this stuff to do in this other business.
Yeah, everything is always about balance, and that's exactly what I found. Even if I did want to drop the other business, I can't, because I am that business. So then I think that was one of my limitations in starting Intheflow. I didn't want to be the face of it because I've been the face of this other business. But then I can be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need to be. So it's just been feeling comfortable with that as well, to do stuff like this, because I was kind of hiding away from it for a little while.
Well, look, I think you honestly, just listening to how you position Intheflow, I think there's something really great there.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that with time we'll all change the way we think and look at this topic of menstruation. It has to. I think we're heading in the right direction. Like with everything that has been taboo or thou shall not speak of, right? That we've kind of started moving into being a bit more inclusive in certain areas. I think this is going in the right direction. And I do think that you are very timely starting something like this. I think we do need more people like yourself pushing for that. I'd want us to have a part 2, because I think this year 2024 is going to be very exciting for you.
Thank you.
And I would love to have you back maybe towards the second half of next year and see how things are going.
Let's see. Great.
We'll close it off with 3 questions, the flash questions, the soon to be popular flash questions. And by the way, I'm gonna make I think I'm gonna make a collage when I hit 20 episodes. So every 20 episodes I'll do a collage of all of the questions and answers from all of the guests. What's a quote that you live by?
There's like 3. Can I share all 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you heard of Dr. Maya Angelou?
No.
She's not with us anymore, but she's a famous poet, activist. She had loads of quotes, but some that you might have heard already are like, people may forget what you say, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Number 1.
Yeah.
She also said, when you know better, do better. And she also said, she had a really lovely poem that in essence was like, we're more alike than we are unalike. So there were like 3 things that really encompass like compassion and understanding and unity and community for me. So they're my favourite quotes from Dr. Maya Angelou. What are yours?
These are
Do you have a list?
These are quite popular. These are quite popular quotes. So I'm surprised that I might have. Her name sounds very familiar.
She's a celebrated poet. She's often like she had Be Somebody's Rainbow in the Clouds. So she's in like a lot of greeting cards and like journals and notebooks.
Yeah, makes sense. Mine, I'm not going to tell you mine, because when I do that collage, I'm going to do mine as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to keep it a secret.
So.
Yeah, I'm going to use all of them. Don't worry about it. A book that changed or impacted your life?
A recent book that I've been reading is from someone that now lives in Brighton. It's Michaela Loach, and it's called It's Not That Radical. It's about climate injustice, and it's fantastic. And again, like we spoke about why language is really important. In the first couple of pages on her book, she said that she's referring to ethnic minorities to the global majority. And I was like, this is amazing. It just reframes everything you thought about ethnic minorities.
Wait, say that again?
So in like the opening couple of pages, she also emphasizes on why language is really important.
Mm-hmm.
And she said that she was going to refer to what we know in the Western world as ethnic minorities to the global majority.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds very logical.
So when you read it like that, you're like, well, yeah, this makes complete sense. Why isn't it that?
Yeah.
So going back to, you feel like it's just me, like I can't make a difference. That's just one person. That's just like inspired me. Now I've shared that with you, and that's how it starts. And I guess a lot of people, when it comes to sustainability and climate justice and gender equality, they might feel like, well, who am I to get involved in this? I've definitely felt like that. Like, I'm not qualified to talk about period education. But I know that I want to make a difference, and that I've got the skills and ability to be able to do that. And it would be my self-limiting beliefs that would discourage me from doing that. So I'm just going to absolutely just go for it. So that's the book that it's called. It's Not That Radical by Michaela Loach, who's also a climate injustice activist.
That's awesome. It's great to hear that's been impacting you in your decision today as well, right? Like the decisions that you're taking recently. And good habit that you advocate for.
Do you know, this is like quite controversial. I'm not great with habits. I've been known to cancel every single gym membership because I think for me, it's just one more thing for me to remember, for me to do. And although routine is really good for me, it just applies like pressure. And I just honestly, I just flow with it. I just really try. Like the habits that I would say for me are, I got myself a dog, Mr. Bojangles. He's the love of my life. And the reason why I did that is because I know that I can hyper-focus, forget to eat, forget to leave the house.
I used to be like that before dogs.
With my dog, I'm accountable. He holds me accountable to take him out, to take him for walks every day, and that's really good for me. Being out in nature for me is like phenomenal. So that's like one big thing of mine that I do, just getting out with him, fresh air, a walk, always does me good. But in terms of habits, like work-wise, structuring things, if I've got an idea, I write it down and I park it and I set a certain day for it. So I really utilize the use of a calendar, especially working on 3 businesses at times, supporting my friends in their businesses. So being able to think of something could be like prioritizing that, moving it around to a certain day, time of the week. Before I would just, it'd be on my mind, that one thing that I needed to do. So that's really good. I'm still quite rubbish at organizational stuff. Do you like just get up and go and make it up as you go along as well?
I do, and I feel that it's quite easy, but it comes with a lot of downsides. Like the amount of times that I forgot to message guests, and even you messaged me 2 days like, I'm excited to come over, and I'm like, yay!
2 weeks just absolutely escaped me, and I thought, oh, I better check in just to be like, we still doing this? Yeah.
And Nikki's been telling me you need to put together a reminder structure and a communication structure for your guests, because you've
got a calendar invite. It's in the calendar.
Yeah.
You're not a doctor's surgery or dentist to text them 2 days before, don't forget your appointment with me.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel that I could be a bit of a better organizing host in a sense.
You are honestly the perfect host.
Oh, no, that's come on, it's an exaggeration. But thank you, I'll take it. And because you said that, I'm going to give you your coin.
I'll get a coin.
Wait, you don't know?
No, I do know, but I didn't know if I'd get one.
Oh, of course you get a coin. Like every single guest gets a coin. You are guest 25.
That's amazing. How exciting is this? Thank you so much. That is such a lovely touch. Thank you.
No worries.
25, that's a good number.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. Next year, will I be guest number 50? Oh no, because you're going to do these more frequently, right?
Weekly.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can synchronize so that you're guest 100. That would be epic.
That would be cool. Yeah. That would be amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming over, and also for just bringing awareness through my podcast to
thank you for
this topic.
Giving me the platform to be able to do that. Like, can I just say, like, a lot of, as much as I say we need to normalize the conversation and we need to welcome like men into this conversation as well so they don't feel uncomfortable, I just need to shout out all the wonderful men, because the majority, all of like my mentors, people that have helped me on the design front, the CGI, sales, platforms, it's all been men. It's all been really wonderful, supportive men that are so behind this. And I think if we're looking at like inclusion and diversity and we want to be seen as a gender inclusive brand, like we need to share that and shout that and just say thank you. Yeah,
I think there's good people out there, men as well, and they deserve a shout out as well.
They do. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without them. So yeah, it's all great. And awesome. You as well for having me on. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you for coming over. And I guess I'll see you in episode 100.
Thank you.